This is your first time in Dubai and it's raining. How are you feeling, man? You're pretty lucky.
I was surprised that
Yeah.
all of this rain and it's like flooding everywhere.
Yeah.
Was here when I got here. I
Yeah.
didn't expect this to be the case. But, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
So, I tend to spend a lot of my time on those things, but the reality is that at Dragonfly, we're all generalists. And we're. This is crazy. All this rain.
Yeah. GP at Dragonfly. Prior to this, you were investing at Goldman Sachs and like Golden Tree Asset Management as well, right? So you're like a Wall Street boy who's now become a crypto boy. Keeping all these things aside, right? Let's start with you. Who is Rob and what's his story?
Yeah, so to your point, so I've been on Wall Street for a little bit before I was in crypto, but I'm actually from like middle of nowhere in the Midwest. Didn't know what anything to do with like financial services was until I was like 22. Kind of really randomly found myself at Goldman back in 2012 and 2013, and was doing fintech and tech M&A, and got super interested at the time in just like emerging market finance and microfinance, especially in places like Africa and Latin America. But at the same time was had a day job. I actually got introduced to Bitcoin through that kind of realm. Was chatting with just some people in the industry, and at the time there was some early kind of like Bitcoin startups happening in Africa and trying to bring like Bitcoin to to the poor parts of the region, and that was actually my first foray into it. And so I've been kind of like understanding what's going on in the space and like a little bit involved in this kind of on the side since around 2012. But it was actually really when like Ethereum kicked off, and in 2016 that I got like super interested in crypto, and I started to understand like, okay, well, what smart contracts can enable, especially when it comes to finance. And so I got kind of deeper and deeper. I was involved in some of the early conversations at Goldman about crypto, and then got deeper and deeper while still doing kind of traditional finance jobs, as you mentioned, until 2020 and DeFi summer happened, and I was like, this is too cool, and I have to like do this full time.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a whirlwind since 2020, as people know. But yeah, did crypto at Golden Tree, and then here at Dragonfly for a couple of years now.
So how did you come across Dragonfly? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so when I was at Golden Tree and I was helping to build out that business, we were trading, we were doing some VC. It was all partner capital, and this is early before we had hired a bigger team and kind of spun out a new entity and all that kind of stuff.
We can talk more about Golden Tree first, actually.
Yeah.
What was your role there, and like how did you set up the entire thing?
Yeah, so when I went to Golden Tree, there was a partner there, Joe Nagar, who he had basically gotten the firm into crypto with some others early in the ICO boom in 2017 and elsewise. And he had through that, a lot of the firm had made money and they had done pretty well in a number of different investments. And so I, through kind of some mutual connections, had gotten connected to him in 2020 and early 21. And he had started to think through, okay, well, the market's doing better, DeFi summer is happening. Is there a reason that we should be doing something kind of more fulsomely at the firm? And it was kind of happenstance. Like, they weren't looking to necessarily like, kind of build out a business or anything. But, Joe asked me to come on, and, they were working on a few things already. And we started to, kind of plan through doing everything that needed to happen on the infrastructure there. We were one of the first, I think, of like the big firms to decide to enter crypto. And early on, it was the stuff that, everybody was kind of doing on Wall Street. So stuff like basis trades and, a little bit of like, major like long short. But it became, more and more a much broader kind of vision over that period of time. And through that, actually, one of those times we had invested or co-invested with Dragonfly in something like I was talking about earlier, which was a cross-border payments and remittance business called AfriX.
Right.
And so I got very excited about that, considering everything my background.
Yeah.
And Dragonfly was leading the round, and that was actually the first time I met Hasid.
Okay.
And
which year was this?
This was 2021.
Okay.
And so we got to know each other a little bit. Started thinking about some other things we could do together. And in 22, kind of, or I would say, late spring, Dragonfly was raising what our current fund is, which is our venture fund 3, $650 million fund. And they wanted to bring on somebody with a more traditional background like mine, Hazib and Tom being engineers, and started to talk about what it would look like. And I kind of jumped at the chance to be to stop being like a crypto person at a TradFi firm and being a more TradFi person at a crypto firm.
Right.
And haven't looked back.
At Goldman, when you came across crypto, how was the sentiment around that like?
Yeah, so early on, there was Bitcoin was for weird, kind of anarchist people, and some of us who just thought it was an interesting technology, but there wasn't much sentiment in the way of people caring about it at all at Goldman. This is 2012, 2013, 2014. When we hit 2015, 2016, you might remember, but there was kind of, Bitcoin ran up to 19K in 2016, and there was all this stuff around enterprise blockchain that was happening. Life Masters was on the front of, it was a Forbes or Fortune saying blockchain, not Bitcoin at one of these times. And Goldman at the time was starting to think through we have some interest from some early clients. At that time, I think Tim Draper was very loud about it, and some others. And so it was, maybe we'll put together a trading desk or something like that. And it was just trying to figure out what it looked like. And as everything is at Goldman, it was very opportunistic. Yeah. And so if we can make money doing it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then when Bitcoin went from 19K to 3, everyone, there was still interest in figuring out what might happen, but it became there's a lot less interest.
Yeah. You're originally from Ohio, and then you moved to New York, right? And you've studied economics, and then you did your majors in finance as well, right? So you're always gravitated towards this field?
Not always. So, I guess going way back, I was when I was really young, all I cared about was soccer or football, and played, kind of night and day. Played in college, went on to college on a scholarship. And I always was I'm going to be a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
That was really all I cared about until I got a little bit older. But I really got into economics, I think, in college. So I took a couple intro courses. I took a monetary policy course by one of the presidents at the St. Louis Fed. That actually got me super interested in just monetary policy and what was going on in economics. And it was kind of then, and I was 20, 21, that I started to be more interested in finance as a field. And actually, very last minute, I had applied to a bunch of law schools. I was actually going to go to law school. I put down a deposit, and very last minute said I'm going to go try to get a job in finance, and then I'll refigure it out later. And it just kind of happened from there that I never left.
Nice. The slang for TradFi people is suits in crypto language, right? So how are your days when you were a suit? How are the Wall Street days?
Well, I did actually wear a suit. Even in at Golden Tree when I was doing crypto, I was wearing a suit a lot. Which
are you planning to wear one when you're hosting the panel at Token?
Yes, I think in the last 2 years I've only worn suits at weddings. So they collect dust in the back of my closet now. No, but listen, I a lot of the way I think about the world is informed by my background and the training that I had and everything that I did before, and so I continue to be thankful for that experience, and I think it's been very helpful. One of the things that I think is very interesting in crypto and in DeFi, and you hear other people talk about this, is that we kind of all just learn the same lessons that we already learned in the mortgage crisis and in other types of issues that we've had on Wall Street and in finance. So a lot of these kind of big blow-ups that we've had the last couple of years, not very obviously what we've had with the leverage issue in 2022. These are things that we're just learning that other people have already known, and it's because a lot of people in crypto have come from restructuring or recreating financial services, not having had that background, and so we make some of the same mistakes, and I actually find that very fascinating.